Hi, everyone. I'm coming from Belgrade. I will be maybe picking up some questions which we had. How do you start housing cooperative? Because that's what we are trying to do in the context of Central and Southeast Europe, which maybe connects also to here and how the housing situation is here. And I will be jumping up a bit in time. I will start here with an event or a start actually of a center for new cooperative housing in Belgrade, which was exactly 1 year ago, when we got a space which was donated from an architectural office and an architectural gallery to us for 2 years experiment in this space and start this center. And the other interesting link is that the sponsorship that we got to start this was from a Swiss cooperative, the largest Swiss cooperative called ABZ with 5,000 members. And their Solidarity Fund donated us some small amount of money to actually start this center. So it's a combination of different aspects, let's say, of people from different fields and places helping a start of cooperative movement in Belgrade. Well, this didn't come out of blue. We have started somewhere 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, to tackle housing urgency in Belgrade. It was a group of architects, researchers, housing activists, and people that were generally interested in starting up some kind of alternative to the housing market when we got together in a cultural center. And along this way, we developed an approach which is very close to what, for instance, Katarina was speaking about, or what Anna was speaking about in Berlin. Housing cooperative is some new way of in Serbia of a way of resolving housing situation. And the center that we started was, let's say, the incentive is to create, on one hand, a safe space and incubator for collective imagination and action. Images that you see are from the last year of our activities mainly. So space in which we can share knowledge and experience which we have built up in the last 10 years, because we worked on a different legal, economical, and also financial aspects of the housing cooperative and how this could fit in our context. And on the other hand, bring also experience from other places. And it is also meant as a place for pilot projects and community developments, so where groups of people can get together and actually really realized cooperative housing. You see here on the photo, for instance, on the right, there is a group of a multi-generational group, and meanwhile, some people from that photo bought collectively a piece of land, about 20 of them, with the idea to create eco village, mainly grouped around older people, above 60 and further. The idea of the center is also to test co-living. Our ideal situation would be that the center is on the ground floor, for instance, and housing is on the top. For now, we just have a ground floor and not yet housing, but the idea is that center moves with its pilot projects and really serves as inspiration and place further for groups to develop this. And of course, nothing of this makes sense if there is one group that nicely manages to build the cooperative housing projects if there is no systemic change, a systemic solution. So from the start, we have realized that it is really necessary to think how you can upscale, how you can make conditions for more groups to start to live and also realize cooperative housing projects. So I will jump now from 1 year to 1 month ago. On the 9th of October, we have opened an exhibition which was called How and Where Will We Live? Belgrade Meets Barcelona's Way of Novel Cooperative Housing. And I heard, although I didn't exactly understand, but I heard that one of the presentations, there was Barcelona mentioned quite a bit of times. And what we have figured out is that from the cooperative side, Barcelona is for us very interesting environment and context to look at. And one of the reasons is that what is similar is that right of use housing cooperatives are new in Barcelona this right of use is, maybe if you remember what Katarina was speaking about, are the cooperatives where you're not the owner, private owner, but you are collectively owner, and then you have a right of use of the apartment in the building where you are, let's say, member and owner of the total. And the other similarity is that there is a tiny public or social housing sector which is very similar to our context. And why this is relevant for us? Because housing issue is, in our context, locally unarticulated in public discourse. So there is no discussion about it. There are no protests about housing. But housing urgency is bigger probably than, for instance, in Barcelona. There are no local examples. You cannot go and touch and see and feel how it looks to live in a cooperative housing. And it's also difficult for people to conceive alternatives, because the only thing which is sold to us is a private ownership. That's the dream, that's what everyone should strive for, and if you don't succeed, you are a failure. Since first pilot project in Barcelona were made in 2016 and 2018, Barcelona has 19 projects realized or in progress, with 535 units to be realized by 2025. And for us, it was very relevant to bring this case and this exhibition to Belgrade, because it shows that it is not 100 years of tradition like in Switzerland or like in Vienna, but that actually, if there are both top-down and bottom-up meet at the right point in time, there could be incentive for a very quick change. And this was why it was relevant for us to bring it. And maybe some of you know the building on the right, made of wood, with wood was discussed somewhere in the beginning. By now also quite famous, La Borda, which is one of these two pilot projects that have been realized in Barcelona in this right to use cooperative model. There is a whole wave, really, of housing cooperatives emerging across Europe. We saw in Vienna that also there is this wave of co-housing projects. We see in Barcelona. We can also see, for instance, in Amsterdam, which has a large tradition of social housing, but forgotten history of cooperative housing. And Amsterdam, for instance, has a quite, let's say, ambitious also plan that by 2040, 10% of new housing developments are cooperative developments. And what you see on this map is the first project which has been built last year, called the Varen, initiated by a really interesting group of people. And on this map, you see 14 lots that were assigned for this purpose across the city. Apart from this, they have also, let's say, guarantees from the city, some way of leasing the land, also giving part of the finance, etc. So let's go now, jump to Belgrade. I will just show you 4 images of different eras. So 1960s was dominated by what we were calling societal property. It was not state property, but it was the property of companies. Housing was a property of companies which were developing housing for their workers, and workers were not just factory workers, but university workers, public transport workers, whatever work you could imagine. And they would invest from the collective housing fund into some apartments in these buildings, for instance, in New Belgrade. And this was a dominant way of housing until the 1990s, and about 60% of housing in Belgrade was made in this way. We entered 1990s when, similar to here, entire housing stock of that kind was privatized overnight. And which meant that people, for a couple of, at that time, German marks, could buy the apartments in which they used to live. But that meant also that for all following generations, the curtain was closed. There was no chance to get any apartments in a similar manner. The housing fund was depleted. It literally does not exist anymore. From that point, money was used for all sorts of different purposes. And we brought to the other part of 90s, which was the sprouting of illegal construction on the edges of the city, roof extensions on top of the buildings, all in search to find some housing solution in the lack of systemic approach. Today in Serbia we have about 2 million illegal buildings, which tells you that people tried to solve their situation wherever they could, but without legal permits, which is of course a huge problem if you want to change the ownership, if you want to sell this, if you put all your money in this. Today it's very difficult actually to get out of that situation. And then enter 2020s, where we have a huge construction boom, already maybe for the last 8, 9 years, 10, in which the dominant construction is for-profit, big developers. Here in this particular case, this is Belgrade Waterfront Project, which was the cause of many protests in the city against it. It's on public land, but entirely for private interest, a United Arab Emirates company, Israeli companies, name it, from all places coming, and who buys in this is not regular people. Most of the people who buy apartments in this buy it just as an investment, as money laundering, as a possible space for income, for rental, etc. So today, public housing makes 0.65% of housing stock in Belgrade. 10% of population can afford to buy, which means that they can go to bank and ask for a credit. 20% can afford to rent, and 5% of population buys in Serbia. So all the 95 never buy anything of this real estate. Rental prices went 2.5 times in price since between 2017 and 2024. There was a huge influx of Russian people who escaped because of war in Ukraine. We have about 100,000 Russian people who came to live in Belgrade, of city of 1.7 million. So it's a huge number, and they brought a huge pressure on the housing market. These were projects that housing cooperatives realized before 1990s. These were housing cooperatives of socialist time, which were at that time way to get to private property. So you would become a member of cooperative, you realize the project, you would become a private owner later on. But there is some tradition, let's say, of cooperative housing, but not exactly of the type that we are looking for to realize today. So what is interesting is that we are not alone in this in Belgrade. We started in the end of 2012 with this idea, but by now there is a network of groups and organizations from Central and Southeast Europe, which we work together. When we started in 2012, we were interested, we made a public call and asked people if they're interested somehow to come together to make affordable on one hand, but also not to get in debt individually, not to find a way how to collectively resolve housing situation. In 2017, a number of us met in an interesting event in Berlin, actually in a Spreewald building, which was also shown before, and an event which was called Experiment Days. And what we realized is that across our region, and I guess that is very similar to here, was at that time no support of public institutions for alternative to the market housing, and also no support of financial institutions, meaning banks. So we sat in this small room after some panels in which we participated. Some of us knew each other, but majority not. And in 45 minutes, we decided we have to work together. Since then, we became a MOBA. MOBA means mobilize for common good. It comes from tradition of collectively finishing a house or collectively doing a crops in a village. So doing in return shift, helping each other without payment, so in volunteer way. And there are groups from Croatia, Czechia, Hungary, Serbia, and Slovenia working together. There are 7 organizations by now part of this, and also we have support of 2 international organizations, Urban and World Habitat, and a finance cooperative from Croatia, which was very important for us from the very start. So this housing is positioned in this yellow field, and you see that it is cooperative and it is rental and what we call limited equity. It's not ownership co-ops. So partially you are bringing in some input into the cooperative, but then for the rest you are renting it renting it from the cooperative that you are owner of. And it is use-based model. Since 2017, MOBA became more and more serious, and in 2020 we decided to form a legal entity. It's called European Cooperative Society, which means that we are shareholders in a company which is cooperative form. And the purpose of MOBA is, on one hand, serves as an innovative business development platform for new housing projects for its members, and on the other hand, as a financial intermediary for local entities. And one of the things that we realized when we started this whole endeavor, actually we were asking ourselves how many people would be interested to live in this way in our countries. And we were guessing something about 7-8%. And then at some point we realized that there is no research on this, and that we somehow have to have some data to show also to ourselves, but also to others, that there is interest for a different form than private individual ownership. So in lack of that, we managed in 2022 to get a large grant and to conduct a research. And what it showed, on one hand, is that there is a demand for what was a question here. If I had an option to rent a good apartment indefinitely for an affordable price, and if my renter rights were protected, it would be a good solution to my housing problems and ambitions. And you can see, depending from the city, it was in the 4 capital cities of the region, in Ljubljana, Zagreb, Budapest, and Belgrade, that a large percentage of people, for instance, in Ljubljana, very large percentage of people, about 30% said that they completely agree. In Belgrade, it was less, but there is quite a bit of people that also said that they agree, not completely agree, which shows that the private ownership is not the ideal that everyone is looking for. And this was really important for us, because at that point we realized actually interest for this could be much bigger than what we are all the time told. And the other thing that we researched is who are the financial actors that can support this, because in our context there is no yet support of public institutions for any form of this affordable, citizens-led and even subsidized housing. And there is this blockage really between the affordable, sustainable, community-led housing, and on the other hand, affordable patient finance and public land. And in the lack of actually really, maybe just to go back to this, one of the things is that, that commercial banks, which are giving loans to individuals to buy apartment, or to companies, investor companies, to developers to construct building, are not ready to, and don't even know how they would give money to cooperative, how they would give a loan to cooperative. They don't have what they call financial product for this. And speaking to banks, it turned out that it would take quite a bit of time until they have this product for our region. I can tell you that, for instance, one of the major bank players in Serbia is Erste Bank. It's an Austrian bank, which in Austria functions and even comes from cooperative movement. It's the same with Raiffeisen Bank, which is a cooperative bank in Austria. But in our region, they don't support any cooperatives. Neither they know, if you speak to the bank, people in the bank, that they are a cooperative. So in the lack of that, what we had to do is, or what we decided to do, is to form something that we call MOBA Accelerator. It's a quite ambitious plan, and it also relies really heavily on the fact that an ethical financial cooperative is a member of our organization and has knowledge in this, that we would start launch our own fund, which is a revolving fund that is going to support pioneering projects before there is recognition of financial and public institutions. And at the moment we are working actually on this, so there will be 3 kinds of investments into it. The first one is impact donors, people that do not expect any money back. We are aiming to have €1 million in this way. and then the other ones would be like shareholders in it who would be there first of all because of their belief that this is something that they should support. Which means that revolving means that we would support one project when it's realized after 3 years. It gives money back, it can then get another sort of financing, and it can go to the next pilot project in the region. And I now want to use the last few minutes to show you what are these pilot projects. So we saw new developments of cooperative housing, also quite some really great projects. We have to start with what is there in our reach. And you can see here four buildings. They're all existing buildings. So everywhere it's in all cases is the renovation is the principle. And what is important is that there is a collective effort to make each of these projects push collectively. So this is a group from Czechia. It's an umbrella organization called Sdjeleni domi. Sdjeleni domi means shared homes. And they have 2 pilot projects. The first one is this villa, which they bought in the small town of Decin, close to the border with Germany. It's a group of 8 people, and they bought a villa of a former villa of a chocolate magnate. There was a factory of chocolate production, and this villa was for years serving as a social, after the Second World War, as some sort of social center and children place. And they managed to buy this building, to scrape money really from their own pockets, their friends, family, crowd invest. And they are pretty hardcore. They are doing this entire renovation themselves. So this is really the bottom up. You cannot go more self-organized than this. This is the second project in Prague. A group of people bought a former small hotel, which will have 18 rooms. It expects to have 11 to 12 residents. They bought it with the help of a German Umverteilen Foundation, which is like really ideologically believing in this sort of projects, and the finance comes 80% from this foundation. They are also heavily relying on their own workforce to make this happen, but they really took this serious loan from an organization. This is the third project, which is initiated by 2 organizations from Croatia, Cooperative Open Architecture and Cooperative for Ethical Financing. It is in a former military building in a small city of Križevci, where there is a supportive government. So this is an example of city government being interested in realizing cooperative housing project, mainly to attract people who would temporarily coming to work in this city, and on the other hand, for younger people to stay. And they have dedicated this building for a cooperative to actually transform it. So in this case, it's not a land, but it's a building that the city gives, and the cooperative finances the entire renovation. And here we can see some of the plans that were made. Again, there are 2 different kinds, more temporary and more permanent use, and then a bunch of collective spaces. And in Croatia, it's interesting that recently, like a few weeks ago, the national government brought to public the national housing plan, and it also contains, in it are also relies also on housing cooperative as one of the transformative forces in this. And the image on the right is actually about the city of Pula on the coast, which is interested as well to apply cooperative housing models. So now it's coming to the, let's say, policy level. And the last example that I wanted to show you is the one that we are really excited about, and we really hope that our accelerator is going to help finance this project. It's initiated by the Alliance for Collaborative Real Estate Development from Budapest. It is this group of people. They have an amazing project already. They have bought, as a community, they bought with 20 organizations about 1,000 square meters of an industrial building, which they turned into social center and working space, and there is a radio station and publishing house and a kindergarten and all sorts of things in it. And their next project is in the same industrial compound, is to turn this building of about 2,400 square meters into a combination of students and workers' cooperative housing. It is the main, let's say, actor in this is a student association Tech, which is students of political science and mainly, let's say, sociology, so like social sciences. And they are kicked out from their dormitories. So their dormitories by 2026 are not going to be available for them anymore. And ACRED and the Tech team together, and in conversation with the owner of this building in this huge industrial complex, decided to go for this combination of these two functions. And maybe just as a last word, they got this year award of European Bauhaus for cooperative ownership for communities project. So this was really a recognition also on that level that this is something interesting, and we are now pushing really for this project to go through. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Do we have questions for Anna? Please raise your hand if we do, because I didn't see any questions in Slido. There is a question over there. A microphone is heading your way.
Did you manage to change the stigma? You said that there were 3 problems, and the stigma was one of the biggest ones.
I didn't use that word, but yeah, you could maybe interpret it in that way. I think we did. First of all, I don't know if there is stigma, but there is, first of all, not much knowledge about cooperatives anymore. And I think that it is becoming quite popular, let's say, among certain circle of people, because they see that there is a need for getting together again. So there is a bunch of people that are interested in sharing things, in not just collective living, but various ways of sharing and actually creating different, let's say, society. And from that side of society, there is, I think, quite some interest. We had now these events in last month, like 1 month, we had 13 events, and it was always packed and full of people. And a bunch of new people coming, and of various generations also, which was very interesting for me. So both young, but also really older people who are interested in something else than what the market is offering to us. And it's not just affordability, but I think it's really a different way of living that people are interested in.
Any other questions? It's been a long day, I know. You've been super brave. Perhaps one last question, if anyone has it. Or we can follow up with Anna over a few beers.
Yeah, of course.
You're coming?
Yes.
For the beers?
Yes.
Then a round of applause. Thank you so much.